friends, welcome to Zoom and Zoomies, the show where 2 lesbians, 3 cats, and 1 dog decided that living in a camper and working full-time, doing both of those together, sounded like a good idea.
We're sharing the real behind the scenes of remote work, road trips, and all the chaos that comes with trading square footage for freedom.
I'm Britt, and I'm trying out a new filming location for us. We will see if we like it and how well this works, so if you're listening, hopefully you can't tell a difference. If you're watching and you're like, hey, that's different, tell me what you think. Should we keep it or not?
I'm actually more comfortable.
I know, I like this better.
And I'm V, and can I just say, it is after Halloween, and I'm a little disappointed, despite it being all over the internet and like TikTok and everything. For the trick-or-treaters in the 2 different locations we're at, I did not see one character from K-pop Demon Hunters.
I know, I too was really surprised, because I feel like it was all over Instagram and TikTok. I don't know where that fell apart in real life.
But I was so disappointed. I was waiting mostly for Derpy Cat. I thought people would really lean into a Derpy Cat costume, and there were none. My nieces, though, shout out to my nieces. They were Rumi and Zoe, and I think my sister was Mira.
That's cute.
My other niece that went trick-or-treating with them, I think she played Celine.
I love that.
And shout out to my brother-in-law, he was Genu.
That's so cute.
I know. But yeah, I'm very disappointed. But it's fine.
It's fine. Every week we'll bring you probably an update on K-pop Demon Hunters, but also stories and probably a few freakouts as we figure out working from the road one mistake at a time.
In each episode, we'll have a couple of exciting mini segments and also address a specific topic. Today, however, we have a special treat. We'll be talking with Mike and Kerry, who are also digital nomads, but not exactly like us, so more to come.
But first, we've got to kick off our world-renowned segment, What TikTok Didn't Tell Us.
Honey, what did TikTok not tell us?
You know, TikTok didn't tell us. I've seen all of these videos about the majestic pieces of camper life, and you know, we're like, oh, TikTok didn't tell us sometimes you have camper problems. And we're like, okay, well, that's fine, that's fine. You know what TikTok didn't tell us? It didn't tell us that you still have real life problems, too. Like, you still have bills to pay. You still have
Doctor's appointment,
root canals. You still got to go to the gynecologist. You still got to, like, get cavities filled. You've still got to pay property tax. I don't know. Like, I mean, I thought it was just fun vibes. And, like, every now and then you got to, like, change an air filter.
I don't know what it is about the past couple weeks. It just kind of felt like it hit us all at once. Like, we both have doctor's appointments. You got a root canal. I just got my consultation. Yes, I need a root canal. And then our property tax paperwork came in. Like, it hit us all at once. Right before Christmas, too. Like, thanks, universe.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when it rains, it pours. I feel like that's exactly what's kind of happening, and probably why this is so top of mind for me, that, yeah, all of these things are normal. It just feels like they're all happening, like, all at once. Part of it is intentional, because I, like, sort of plan my doctor's appointments, like my annual physicals and stuff, kind of near each other to, like, get it all out. But, yeah.
I don't think we planned for the root canals.
No, didn't. I had an idea the root canal was coming, and the dentist, I was on my scheduled dentist visit, he was, like, suggested it sooner than later. So, but yeah, so all that is to say, we still like camper life, and, day-to-day life has nothing to do with that. We would have to be doing these things whether we were in a camper or not. So thankful for health insurance. Shout out to Pixie Bricks.
Also shout out to Pixie Bricks. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very, very helpful. So yeah, okay, now let's move into our Zoomies Tip Jar.
So I got this was your suggestion for a tip jar, but it is something that I bought. So if you know how people make the joke, we will never turn on the overhead lighting?
Yes.
We're typically like that, but
typically.
Lamps are sometimes not enough. I got very cute fairy lights.
They're very cute.
Initially for her proposal, which mostly went not according to plan, but the backup worked okay.
It was beautiful. And then you also used them to, like, decorate for me and Misha after we finished our half marathon in Toronto.
Which we kept up because you love it so much. And we mentioned our gazelle, like our outside tent. The lighting in there is a little weird. Like, we do have an overhead light, but it just doesn't fit the vibe sometimes. So the pack that I got, maybe we can include it.
Yeah, let's include a link. We'll include a link to that.
Especially since it comes with a remote. That's the most, like, fun part of it. And they have different settings, so it can be, like, really flashy or whatnot. But it's hanging in our gazelle, which is very fun.
Yeah, we have one in the gazelle, one in our bedroom, and one in our living room above our TV. And it's just, I swear, it's just made every single space we hang out in so cozy. It's very cute. I love it. I love that you did that.
Of course. I knew she'd be a big fan of the fairy lights.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll include a link. Add them to any space you want to feel cozy. And now, let's move into our main topic and go chat with Mike and Kerry. All right, so we've got another exciting segment of Zoom and Zoomies today where we actually have some guests on the show, and we have Mike and Kerry Day, and I'm super excited to have them because Mike and I are usually talking about Trello. There it is. Wow, we didn't even make it 30 seconds. We're usually talking about Trello in various places online, and so I'm sure it's going to come up again today, but that's not the focus of this, so it's super interesting conversation, and this is the first time I finally get to meet Kerry, and I'm super excited. V gets to meet Mike. So yeah, this is super exciting. And they are doing digital nomading differently than us, not necessarily in a camper, but we're gonna talk all about that. And so yeah, Mike and Kerry, you want to tell us a little bit more about yourselves?
Yeah, so I'm Mike Day, and I have been sort of collaborating with you, Britt, for what, 3 or 4 years now, maybe
Yeah,
something around that time. And
I
in
think so.
that time, we've
Yeah.
kind of been the two people who sort of have stood up for Trello more than anyone else and done more for it. Maybe regrettably so at times. Yeah, we've kind of got along by bouncing off each other and figuring out what weird and wonderful things we can do with it that no one else can. So I've been doing also Trello consulting for in that period as well. It's kind of more wider than just Trello consulting, but Trello was sort of the point where I was getting most traction from, so I sort of focused on that. But yeah, certainly been working on a few other things now because Trello isn't quite the right fit anymore. Um, and yeah, hand over to my lovely wife.
Hi, so I'm Kerry Day. Yeah, so I was born in South Africa and then moved over to the UK like 15 years ago, and 10 years ago I met Mike. But yeah, so career-wise, I'm a scientist. I started off my career in a hospital doing respiratory research for 10 years, so patient-facing, saw that side of it. And during that time, I did my PhD. I then moved over to the funding side, and I work for a large UK funder of research, so sort of that side. And now I'm a freelance writer. So I'm a scientific writer, and I've got a strong passion and really believe in transparency in science. And I believe that it should be made accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
It should be openly accessible. It builds trust with the public, trust with communities. And I think that's more important than ever in this day and age.
Absolutely.
Where we're at.
Definitely.
So that's what I do. I freelance different publishers. It's a bit of a tough game. Science is never particularly. It's always a bit up and down, but yeah, the science is still getting out there, and there is even more of a push towards different media in terms of how to communicate it. So podcasts and blogs and
Yeah.
things. It's not papers anymore and articles. So yeah, everyone should be able to access it. So that's where I've ended up. Yeah, and I can do that.
Yeah.
Remote as a digital nomad. So it fits in well.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, I have a whole question about how the careers work and things, but that's super cool. Like I've always thought it's really cool. Mike's told me before a little bit like about what you do and like shared some of your articles and stuff. And I think that's great. And like you said, we definitely need that in this day and age. We need more people writing about science and not just pontificating their random thoughts about the internet, like old white guys with microphones. Like we really need like science and like
the proof, the facts, the
like
data.
what's going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Because science, yes, you can have one paper that shows them, but generally it's built on a load of evidence, generally a load of papers to show this is a pretty strong direction. Nothing's perfect. This is a pretty strong direction. So yeah, that's just that voice needs to be heard, and yeah, it needs to just be accessible. It shouldn't be something, historically science was very, we just communicate in these papers where we talk like this, and no, we should be able to explain to, like a 10th grader or whoever what's going on and
exactly
why it matters, but still maintain, the accuracy of what it is. And that's a hard balance to have because you want to make it simple, but you actually, there's so many layers within that. So yeah.
I was gonna ask about that because it's like one thing to make sure the information gets there, but like another way to like make it digestible for the public. And also like maintain that level of authority. Like I clearly know what I'm talking about. And I think there's a thing where it says if you can explain what you're trying to explain very simply to like a child, then you clearly do know that field well.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's like the level of like almost mastery is if you can actually explain it in simple enough terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and it's hard. I like, you know, when I was in academia, that was always like, oh gosh, one of the hardest parts is writing a lay summary, and you think, well, why is it? Like, it should be pretty simple. It's actually really hard because you're so like in it in your
Yeah.
brain. So yeah, it's this fine balance to be had, and it's it takes. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but yeah, certainly try.
I think the
feel like
audience
being
has changed.
Oh, go ahead.
It's we're all kind of we're all conditioned to headlines and 15-minute video clips,
Yeah.
15-second video clips, sorry. Like, and it's yeah, our brains aren't able to compute lengthy text anymore, or even
No.
long video. I find myself, if there's a video that's too long, I kind of put it on 2 times, or I skip
Yes.
it a bit.
So yeah, like so talking about careers, that's one thing I kind of wanted to bring up with you all and kind of chat through when you decided to do this. Well, maybe we should start with that. Like, what kind of led to you deciding to do this? But I do want to get to like, did you have to change jobs? Like, what does that kind of look like? But let's maybe step back to like, first of all, where are you now and what are you doing? And like, what kind of led to you going on this path and the deciding you want to try this lifestyle?
It's a really good question, actually, because I think so it didn't take long after we were together that we were exploring, and we had a passion for nature. So when we were working in the UK, all of our money, because we also realized that we don't really get much out of possessions, so we get more out of experiences. So we used to always eat really nice food, go on really nice holidays.
Yeah.
But the constraining part was, Kerry was a little bit better. She just had a much lower salary, but she had loads of leave, whereas I had a higher salary but next to no leave. So if we only want to spend our money on going away, and I get like 20 days a year, like
Yeah.
it's just not possible. So we kind of led to thinking that we were going to we made a plan to save up loads of money, quit our jobs, and go traveling for 2 years. But the idea was to travel and not work, so it's just using and savings that we've got to
Yeah.
travel. We're going to hop back into normal life again after a couple of years.
And COVID hits.
Then COVID hit, so we were supposed to be leaving that year. We had planned. I'd already handed my notice in for my job, and yeah, we were planning to go, and then COVID hit. And luckily, my company actually paid me loads more to stay because they didn't want me to leave. So
Wow.
throughout COVID, we had nothing to spend our money on, and I was earning more than I've ever earned. And so
Yeah, you're just like
between
continuing to accrue it, and you're like, okay, sure, we'll do something with this. Yeah.
but it became more and more urgent that the feeling, especially like going through COVID, it was sort of cemented really the idea that we've got to live life now, because you never know when that's going to be pulled from underneath it. So it kind of really cemented what we wanted to do. And at the time, all we thought it was going to be was traveling to different countries and kind of enjoying nature, culture, and that kind of thing. We didn't really think too much beyond that. And we had an idea, we plotted out a map of where we wanted to go, and it was pretty much all over the world.
Along the tropics. So we were like plotted our map and to sort of keep along but like right around the band.
Yeah.
Generally
where it stays nice and warm, opposite of UK weather. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of jobs, though, we
quit our jobs.
We quit our jobs, but I remember walking into a meeting with my boss, because so the COVID thing happened. They extended my contract, but they still wanted me to stay. And I just walked in and said, "Look, I'll take half what you're paying me now and stay. All I'm asking is that I work in another country.
Yeah.
I'll sync up with UK hours. I'll carry on doing exactly what you want me to do, and I'll do it for half the money, because the cost of living where we were going was going to be less." And he said no. I said, oh, okay. And his response was, "Why would I let you do that when I'm not allowed to do that?" And I said, "Well, first things first. You are the director of the company, so if you really wanted to, you could."
Yeah, I was going to say, why don't you? Yeah, that sounds like a question for you, sir. But yeah.
And secondly, it was sort of like underlined the kind of ethos of the company of, I don't want you to be working, even if you're working effectively, if you're going to be really happy.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like
exactly. Yeah. Like, no, this
that
has
was
to be a
something
little bit
that
torturous for you. If this isn't a little bit
Yeah.
torturous, like, yeah, yeah, that would make me
Yeah.
leave right on the spot. I'd be like, wow, never mind, forget it. I actually, even if I am stuck in this country for the rest of my life, don't want to work for you.
yeah, but that's kind of symptomatic to a lot of the attitude in the UK around business.
Yeah.
So it did become abundantly clear quite quickly that the only way we'd be able to make this work is if we find a way of earning money ourselves. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, you even today, like I do quite often look at jobs in the UK, and they've got this thing now where they advertise on LinkedIn as remote, but they actually mean they want you in the office 3 times a week. Like it's probably
Yes.
happening in
Yeah.
the US as well.
Yes.
So remote working doesn't really exist in the UK.
Completely remote. You
Um,
have to be like US based or UK based.
and you could be the
Yeah.
absolute perfect fit for the job, and they still,
There's
because
an element of
yeah,
control. I
it
think
is. It's
a bit of
control and
control.
power thing.
It's funny how we've regressed now after COVID, where it's like everyone work remotely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And now it's
Just
like,
fine too.
Yeah, and it worked.
yeah,
People were happier. Like people like were actually more productive.
yeah,
sure, right?
yeah.
But now I
So
feel like
Yeah.
there's a bit of a regret. So
yeah, we kind of both quit our jobs, and then I kind of already had this plan of being able to do consulting, but I think I expected it to be project management consulting.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know how it came about, but I was kind of using Trello to solve project management problems for a few people. And then I got a few inquiries about actually doing Trello work for other kind of businesses. And it kind of evolved from that, and then just kind of kept growing.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, I was thinking, well, I've always been hands-on, patient facing or in the lab. Like, how do I translate this? And I was like, during my PhD, I did actually quite enjoy writing, and I was like, I'm going to look into that. And then I looked into that, and I hooked up with some publishers pretty quickly, actually. And then it went from there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think that's like super intimidating for a lot of folks, but I think also like a really common path that a lot of folks have to do because, for similar reasons, like I'm pretty lucky that, yeah, I, work for a small company and they were already remote. They, don't have offices and they didn't mind, the idea that, I'm working from anywhere and that I'm very thankful that didn't have any like impact on my job, but
I was not so lucky.
yeah, exactly. V actually,
So I worked for a state government job. And at first, whenever I applied, because we were all already planning on moving and being our camper full time. And whenever this job offer came my way, I let them know, I was like, I'm leaving near the end of the year. I'm gonna want to travel. So either expect me to only work 6 to 8 months for you and then I'm gone, or if we could find a way to work remotely, I could work remotely. That would be great. And at the time, my boss was like, actually, we have a policy. After you're in office for 6 months, you'll be eligible to work remote. I'm like, okay, great.
perfect.
Perfect. But then, so I'm from Louisiana, and Louisiana is quite the red state. And so when our lovely President Trump demanded everybody go back in office, so did our governor. And so they completely axed that policy. It's like everybody had to be back in office. And before that announcement went out, my boss called me and he was like, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to mislead you. I had no idea this was happening, but this is about to be announced. I'm like, I don't blame you, but I'm not going to be here. So just be prepared that I'm all the projects that I'm currently working on, government, our state legislation, and everything was in session. I was like, I will work until like all these are closed out, but then I'm out of here.
Yeah. Wow. Well, good for you
Yes.
standing your ground, like.
so where's that ended up now? Like, what's
So the difficulty with me is that I'm an attorney licensed in the state of Louisiana. And
right?
Louisiana happens to be the only state that does the law differently
Than
than
every other
everywhere else
state.
in the country.
But more like everywhere else in the world, funnily enough. Like it's more closer to European law.
Yeah, so it's called Napoleonic law. So we're more aligned with like everywhere else in the world. However, we're very different than everywhere else in our own country. So there's a thing called reciprocity, or if you had taken it's like the universal bar exam, that it could apply, your license could apply to different states. Unfortunately, that doesn't work in Louisiana. So but my previous job, I worked in policy. So I've been trying to find something similar to that here. And before that, I did records management for the Secretary of State, also trying to find something similar to that here. However, we're currently in the middle of a government shutdown, so all my previous work experience would mostly be government based. Hasn't really worked out through the time being. So I've been playing homemaker. Brittany works all day. Sometimes she has to work late into the night, and so
Yeah.
I will like keep up with everything with all of her animals, make sure this one eats because she will forget.
It's been super helpful, honestly. Like I would love for her to get a job again at some point, but also it's been like I couldn't imagine the last, couple months if we were both working full time, just because there's been a lot with taking care of the camper, taking care of our animals, and like everything going on there. So yeah. And I think what's also tough is like I loved, I work in tech, and so I'm like, oh yeah, they're always looking for like attorney, like, legal jobs. But the problem is she'll apply for something like a contracts manager, and they're like, you're way overqualified for this. You have a law degree. And she's like, well, yes, but this still is a job and I'm happy to do it.
And it's remote,
yeah,
so take me, please.
right.
Yeah.
Then she'll go and apply for like some sort of like, counsel job, and they're like, we need you to have 10 years of experience doing this for a tech company already. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not qualified for this and I'm too qualified for this. Like, how do you want me to get into it? So yeah, we're trying to figure that out too. But I don't know, we're
Yeah,
gonna try to make some money with Zoom and Zoomies. Our goal is to try to sort of figure out some like side projecty stuff, kind of like you all like it. Well, not necessarily like you all, but in the same vein of doing things for ourselves and trying to freelance and get some sort of stuff there. She's also really good at design, and I keep telling her she should do like graphic design for stuff.
I don't think I'm at the skill set where I can make money off of it.
Yeah, you just have to look at like people like me, like my creative ability. Yeah, it wouldn't take much. I reckon there's lots of people like me who kind of can muddle along, but it looks rubbish at the end.
Yeah, same with me. That's where I'm like, I don't enjoy it, and I don't necessarily think what I do looks great. So like, I would love for you to do it. So yeah. So tell us a little bit more. What is your digital nomad life look like? I feel like our listeners know a lot about like camper life, but you're all not living necessarily in a camper. So tell us how does that work for you? What is kind of the day to day or the month to month of your nomadic life?
Yeah,
it
it has evolved, and
really
the more we do it, the more we're learning about. So we kind of eliminate the things that we don't want and we don't like, and the things that don't
Yeah,
make us happy.
you can refine it.
And we get more and more refined into
see, not
yeah.
thirsty, but like you know what you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but it's also, I mean, what we used to do as well is, so basically, when we left the UK, the first port of call was in a small island in the Caribbean, and we stayed there for 6 months. Oh, no, it was about 5 months, and that was also during COVID. So that island actually locked down while we were there. But it was like this really chilled island, and we were there for 6 months. And because we had loads of money in the bank, we did no work
Besides
whatsoever.
eat
So,
lobster,
like,
eat
all we
lobster,
did was
drink
like,
beer.
yeah, we just chilled, we drank, we went to the
Living the
beach,
dream. What everyone thinks
Yeah.
nomad life is like. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, like set a big safety blanket on,
Yeah.
you know, we've worked now, let's just chill out.
and it was a really amazing time, because that also came out of sort of like being sort of locked in the house in the UK for a good year and a half, and yeah, it was kind of, I think we rebounded a fair bit, so we chose purposely not to work, but and then we started plotting out what we were going to do next, and it kind of went from that to the complete opposite, and then we started to hop from place to place quite rapidly. So we started to visit country after country, and as we were doing that, the savings pot was kind of going. "Meh."
Right? It goes down.
Work isn't a plaything; we have to actually do it.
Yeah.
Because the more we had this life, the more we realised that we didn't want it just to be a 2 year thing. We want this to be kind of pretty much forever.
Yeah.
So when we realised that we had to to make this our life, we had to make money, and we had to make enough money to live. And bearing in mind, we tend to go to countries where the cost of living is substantially less than the likes of the US and the UK.
Yeah.
We didn't make that much money, but we had to make enough money. But we were really conscious of making sure that we weren't working so much that we didn't really enjoy and appreciate those places, and also
Right.
that we gave them the respect they deserve. But yeah, so it's kind of, we realized that we had to do that, and I'm not going to plead any kind of pity here, but when you're in a place and there's so much around and so many things you can be doing, and you have to sit there and do work, it can be difficult. But then
Yeah.
again, doing work when you're staring out to the ocean is pretty nice as well. So yeah, it's definitely not a complaint, but it is quite challenging sometimes. You just want to do it all,
Yeah.
and you realize you can't.
That's often what I like to say to people too. People are like, how do you do this and like still work? Like, don't you like when you go somewhere just want to do everything there? And like sometimes yes, but also sometimes like I'm just tired and it's just really nice to sit still and just kind of take in everything around me, looking out the windows and just like being in a new place is still like really energizing and exciting for me. And yeah, like I mean,
I think there's a whole psychology behind it, changing your
Yeah.
environment,
like can change your perspective and your mood and just kind of help with that. And like
and also help with efficiency with your work as well.
yeah, especially if you have ADHD, like literally changing your scenery can basically, I don't know the official science behind it, but I know it's something to do with like, it's like distracting you enough without distracting you too much so that like scratches that itch for distraction so you can actually focus. So,
Yeah, that's really
We've had that conversation before, haven't we, about the
Yes.
idea of being able to work better in like inherently noisy places
Yeah.
like cafe.
to be like silent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me and Kerry the opposite when it comes to work. Like
Yeah.
when she sat there focused, she's so focused. It really pisses me off. She's so focused on work, and I tried to do things to distract her. Like I'll start flicking her, and
Yeah.
like just because I think I easy to focus so much because I know I haven't got it.
Yeah, but I feel like my ability to focus is still strong, but it's weakened, and this is something.
And that's my fault, I suppose.
Like
Mike's had influence on that.
I sort of feel like the lifestyle that we lead, because it's less structured, you can, I don't know, you may want to be honest and talk this too. You can then therefore feel like you're going out of structure a bit, and
Yeah.
you know, concentration. I know that's not, I don't know that's a topic that people openly talk about, but I think it is something that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit too, in the sense of that, like, kind of similar, since we were so used to, you know, when she would come in the camper before, when we were doing this like part-time, she was always off work. And so it was like a holiday kind of for her. And so when we started doing this full time, it still kept feeling like holiday. And so it took a little while to
For the
kind of get
novelty to kind of wear off.
Yeah,
You're
and
like,
to
we're
be
not on vacation mode.
yeah, it's like, okay, let me get out of my computer and apply for jobs. Like, you know, let me get on my computer and like make graphic, you know, do different things like that. Whereas for me, I've just been used to that from the start. Like that's kind of how I've always traveled. And so I'm similar, going in and out of that zone of like, it's focus time, like it's playtime, it's focus time, it's playtime. But also it's like sometimes a little bit of both happening all at the same time.
Well, you were also homeschooled, so I think you were
Yeah.
already like conditioned to be able to just turn that on and
Yeah,
off.
I think so too. I homeschooled a majority of my life. And yeah, I did not realize until COVID how that is so out, like remote work and just like being able to work from anywhere is like completely blows some people's brains. And I'm just like, I've done that since I was a kid, like doing my work from home and being self-structured and like, here's what you're meant to do it. Like I didn't need a classroom of other people doing the exact same thing sitting next to me to do it. So I think it's a little different
really
for everyone.
That's definitely helped. But like, you know, because we've, you know, and the evolution of what we've done, like we've gone from like, you know, we sometimes stay in wherever, don't we? We're not particularly fussy where we stay.
Yeah.
You know, we can run it, we can be working from our laps. But now we've sort of like gone over time and gone, we'd actually quite like a table, or we actually quite like a
Yes.
desk. And
Yeah, like you learn, it's like you said, you learn there's certain things.
It definitely
get spoiled,
we get a
don't
bit
you?
complacent when we
Get
get when we
complacent.
have a house that's got 2 rooms and it's got a desk in both rooms, and oh wow, this is, and we start to expect that stuff. But yeah, in the past we've stayed in like wood cabins, we've stayed on islands that don't have electricity. We once
The
stayed in
chickens, I remember the chickens.
that was a particular, because it all happened. I had a Zoom call with someone, and first of all, midway through the first time, the power cut off, and so pitch black. And I think I was connected to my phone, so it was still working, but I was in darkness. I was talking to this guy in pitch black, and then the phone, because also when the power cuts here, they tend not to have backup generators for the phone masts as well. So eventually the phone signal dies as well. So that disappeared. And then eventually the power came back, and I managed to get the guy on and say, oh, do you want to give it another try? And then when I joined the call, I was sat in this balcony area, and I heard a bit of kerfuffle on the roof. And then I was chatting to the guy, and this chicken just dropped down on top of me.
Oh my God.
And he was like, and he was looking at me bemused, and I said, I don't know, it's just a chicken. And he
It's just a
started
chicken.
laughing. I think he was
You know,
at that point he was
typical office environment. What, you've never had a
Yeah.
chicken fall from the sky and crash onto you in the mid meeting?
Yeah, so it's
Feels
kind
like
of
a sequel to
yeah.
Chicken Little.
Yeah.
I quite enjoy those little things happening, but yeah, there was
Yeah, no, they
definitely
make the best stories. Like it's so funny, and it's just I mean, we often joke when we're doing live streams, like what's Mike's background right now? Like what's gonna happen? And like it's yeah. So that was great chatting with Mike and Kerry. We're actually going to have to stop the conversation in the middle here because there is just so much, and I don't know that you can all listen to it in one setting. You're going to need some space to digest. So we're going to actually carry on. Next week, there's going to be even more. We're going to pick the conversation back up where we left off here. But for now, we're going to hit pause, and we're going to chat about the pet drama report.
Yeah, so Lucas had this, and now we're a little worried about Lilo. One day I noticed that she was like kind of squinting one of her eyes, and we were a little worried about that. And you noticed like maybe a little bit of like the discharge coming out. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on it.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know how much, listeners, you'll have to let us know. When we come to Pet Drama Report, I was expecting like some more funny stories, and you probably didn't expect to hear as much about like our pets' bodily functions, but I don't know. I think that is interesting, and thankfully that is probably the most adventurous thing that we've encountered in the last week, but we're keeping an eye on it, and it does seem to be getting better.
I don't know if it's the cold weather.
It could be. It's like some upper respiratory thing maybe got to her, but she hasn't been sneezing or anything, so I think something just bothered her one eye. But yeah, she's not squinting it as much, and like there's still a little bit of like the brown discharge that comes out, but that happens to Lucas every now and then for a few days and then moves on, so we're gonna see. But yeah, moving on now to our random question of the week. I put this one in here last minute. What is the worst chore in the camper, hun? For you?
For me, it is the kitty litter, because typically with more than one cat, you want more than one like litter box. However, we're in a camper, so that we don't really have many options. We do have one pretty decent sized litter box that for the most part has been working. However, you do have to clean it every day. And our cats sure do love to use it, so that's one. And another one that's been, I never liked this chore to begin with, even living in like the condo we're at, is cleaning the floors. I don't know what it is about it, like mopping or sweeping. Vacuuming, like I'm okay with. Unfortunately, we mostly vacuum in here, but I guess it's just kind of been amplified in here because the floors here get so dirty so quickly.
Yeah, they do, and I try to help with that when I can, but yeah, it gets to be a lot fast, and
I think it's just like we're such a small space, you notice it more.
That's probably true. Like, yeah, at least there's less to vacuum and stuff.
Yeah, that is the saving grace of it all.
Yeah. For me, I think my least favorite chore is hooking up and unhooking the water. I know everybody thinks the sewer's got to be the grossest part, right? Like, that's got to be so disgusting. No, it's really not. It's actually, like, super sanitary, because when you follow the rules and do it right, you're never, ever getting anywhere near touching anything gross. Like, it's not like there's, like, poop hanging out of, the hose when I unhook it. Like, there's a whole process where, sure, the stuff goes right down the drain, and then you always, like, afterwards run, like, some water through it, and, like, ideally some, like, gray tank water, which is usually soapy shower water or soapy dish water, and so there's literally, like, soapy water running right through it anytime you get anywhere close to unhooking it or whatever. So, like, worst case, you have a spill of soapy water. That's pretty much, like, usually, if you're following the rules, as bad as it gets. So everyone thinks that's the worst part, but it's...
I was gonna say, if you're like me and you watched that movie RV, that was the thing I was terrified about.
Oh yeah, and like you can do some stupid stuff and have issues like that for sure, but like if you understand the idea of keep the valves closed and like open them only when everything's like there's things you do that make sure this doesn't happen, and as long as you follow those rules, it's very straightforward. And so that's easy. What I don't like is hooking up and unhooking water to like the spigot, and it's because there's tips and tricks around it. Sure, that similarly, if you do, you can do it right, and it makes it better. Like leaving a faucet running on the inside, so it relieves some of the pressure. But every time I manage to soak myself in one way, shape, or form. Like for the most part, it's manageable and not like ruining my outfit soaking. But it's usually like I cannot walk away completely dry. I've got some gloves that are waterproof and grippy. That was a new addition that makes this slightly less painful, especially when it's cold outside. Yeah, you picked them out for me. Thank you. But Yeah, so anyway, so that's probably my least favorite.
I remember one time, I don't know what it was, but you and Lane were back there, and I think I heard one of y'all like, turn it off, turn it off.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because there's always a test too of like, is it gonna leak somewhere? So like, absolute like worst case is I'm getting wet, I'm getting soaked. But like that's just only one problem. Like another one can be that it's like leaking out at different places, and you don't want that. And then you kind of have to do it. Like I've gotten better at that because I now hook it up like piece by piece. Like I hook up the diverter and I check it's coming out the diverter without leaking, and then I hook up the water filter and check it's coming out of the water filter without leaking, and then so I do piece by piece, and it's gotten better. But I don't know, maybe a year from now we'll be like, yeah, I never wet myself hooking up.
That's what she said.
Yeah, that's a great quote. All right, friends, that's it for this week's episode of Zoom and Zoomies. Next week, we're, like I said, going to continue this conversation with Mike and Kerry and dive more into some awesome stuff about nomad life and wherever else the conversation takes us. We literally couldn't stop. We had to keep going, and just to give you all some break, we're going to break it out into 2 episodes.
I feel like we kind of just like barely scratched the surface with them. Like I could have talked to them all night.
That's why I couldn't even stop when we were recording. Like I think we recorded like over an hour, and I was just like, I could keep going.
But if you have any questions, topic ideas, or you just want to say hi, send us an email at hello@zoomandzoomies.com, and we would love to hear from you.
And you can also follow our chaos on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Just head to zoomandzoomies.com to get links to all that fun stuff.
And if you liked hanging out with us today, it would mean the world if you left a rating wherever you listen to your podcast, and hit the like and subscribe buttons on YouTube. It really helps other people find us and join in all the adventures or chaos.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week with more Zoomies.